a little bit of there's no AI here, but there's a precursor. For AI, you need data, and for data, you need EDC and clinical trials. So this is about EDC. So Julian Rimmer, I'll give you the Abbvie spiel. I am BRM. I support DSS and ACPRU. So what does that mean to you guys? It means I'm responsible for the technology that supports the phase 1, 2, 3 clinical trials, data capture, data analysis with stats analysis, stats programmers, etc. So up to NDA, up to a new drug submission. So hopefully that makes sense. If I think about it too much, it's quite scary. And it's not just me. I've got a bunch of very smart people who actually do the work. I kind of just push them in the right direction. This was a presentation that was put together with my business partners. So I'm going to take you back in time, end of October, we'll start with October 2022. We actually have multiple EDCs, but that's a little secret I won't tell anyone. We have a main EDC, and we've had it for 15 years in Abbvie, and we're in a situation where in October of 22 we had the contract renewal, and it was a significant dollar amount, all that good stuff. And we took the opportunity to use that moment to revise, and we wanted to leverage the current partnership and look and see what else was out there. See if we can improve the partnership, see if we can get a new platform, see if we can make it more strategic and with things like AI in mind, because when you've got a product that's 15 years old, it may or may not be meeting your future needs. So, spoiler alert, we did change. Okay, that's just keep that in mind. So, how and why? So the point that this is just going to go through how we did it. So if ever you've ever done an EDC switch out, usually it takes about 12 months to 18 months. And it's usually pretty painful. It usually involves hundreds, if not thousands of people. It's usually a lot of change management, etc. The first thing we did was the RFP. And once that was put together and we got the legal boys to do their processes and get the agreements on the numbers, we then had to very quickly come together with a project plan. And top right, you'll see there is the project plan. So I'm on the IT side, as I said, and I'm working with my business partners. So they've got their business needs. We've got a portfolio to deliver. Okay, so they've got studies to start. You'll see around April the study starts. April is the first study starts are in April. So I need to have something. I'm in October. We need to have something up and running in April. And then we came up with these kind of 3 bullets or 3 buckets. The implementation strategy. The teams, the key stakeholders. We had about 22 different groups impacted. We had 100 change champions identified across the groups. The change management. Somebody asked tonight about change management. Change management, I think, is just absolute insanity because every time you do it, it's always a different game. It's like going over the top in the First World War. You just get bombed at all the time. But that is absolute key to success, and you need a rock solid governance model. And this governance model we put in place was like almost daily to get this off the ground. So it was a mix between the vendor and it was a vendor and Abbvie, and also the business and IT. So we were literally meeting daily to get this thing to work. So, and if you spot the deliberate mistake here, I've actually given you 5 pillars of success, not 4. So there were the pillars of success here were the communication and the network. So we across the organization, we were communicating across it broadly. Okay. The work streams and the integration strategies, we kicked those off. The business was in front of those, and this was going from the data management, clinical, safety, making sure that they knew what was happening and when the studies were going to start, and when the studies were going to be delivered. The training. The training was not only internal, but also external. We actually found, by the way, the sites on this one, the sites were the best. They were like, it's another EDC system. They just kind of rolled with it. They were big deal. They already had 6 or 7 of these things already. It was actually the monitors that had a bigger challenge, because they need to be the in-house experts that were going to help the sites in situations where the sites had a question, how do I do, or whatever it was. The other thing that we did was basically out of the box. Build it out, so just take it as it is. Don't try and mess with it. And build the EDC processes with what we have already. So don't try and reinvent what we've got, because if we're going to meet the 6 months delivery, we're not going to reinvent the whole wheel here. So we're actually going to take the current EDC or the business processes that we have in place, and just move those forward. So now we're talking about kind of switching a little bit, the business. So data sciences, who are responsible now for delivering the databases, they need to get up and running. I'll come to that in a second, how I help them do that. But their proposal for building their studies, the vendor basically built the first three databases, and then with them shadowing it, and then data sciences who built the next 4 with the vendor overshadowing them. So it was kind of a knowledge transfer, if you can call it that way. But then also in doing that, they built a library of standard formats, standard forms, standard rules, standard text, etc. So that was then moving forward. You can just cut and paste and use those elements moving forward. The numbers are probably actually disingenuous, because then, 106 and 210 forms and elements, we're probably way beyond that, blowing through it right now. But the other thing we did was we didn't do any data migration. So if you were a study that was ongoing, you stayed in the system that you're in, either legacy. It's called a legacy system by this point, because we've obviously signed the agreement. And that's kind of an unwritten rule within, I think, clinical research, that if you start a study in an EDC tool, you don't move it over. It's just that really is a bad day when you make that decision. The next 2 bullets, I think, maybe seem contradictory. Use existing Abbvie business processes to accelerate the timeline, but then do continuous improvement. And I maybe just touched on this, is so that basically, sometimes when you do an EDC rollout, people take it as the opportunity to blow everything up and say, right, we're going to redo everything. No. Because you'll be there all year, look at your neighbor, trying to figure out how you fill out a CRF or whatever it is. And as I said, you just took the business processes as is. However, there were some incumbent elements within the new tools that made sense to take advantage of. So, for example, and you're probably going to be shocking, how we numbered sites. The new tool allowed us to streamline with the rest of the organization as to how we actually numbered the sites. So, we're going to do that, and we did that. And rather than having data scientists have their own numbering schema, they were now in line with the rest of the organization. So, yeah, that was simple. So there was continuous improvement as we did this, but we weren't going to do Herculean changes in processes as we move forward. Again, by October, just to give you of 23, we had 34 studies up and running, and that was in 23. We have over 200 now, 200 studies in the new tool. Steady state, that's about steady state, because as studies roll off, we get new studies coming in. We do about 70 studies a year. 70 new studies a year. So they kind of roll in, right. So that was what we did and how we did on the business side. And then from my side, which was the IR information research, again, another Abbvie acronym, but IT to everybody else outside. When I sat down and looked at this was actually kind of scary. Weirdly enough, in IR, we have ways of looking at our processes and how long we take, and which is great. we know we're bad, if that makes any sense. And when I looked at how long it was going to take to stand up a new system, it was going to take 3 months. And so I got the green light in October, and I've got Thanksgiving, and I've got the holidays, and these guys needed something up and running by January. And so all those things listed below, the architecture review, the UAT, the requirements, etc., those were all sequential things that we did in IR. That was the procedure. We just blew it up, and we actually ended up doing all those things in 11 days. And I know that's kind of well, so what? The point here is that, the takeaway I'm trying to get across is you can change how your organization works if you actually have a good enough business case to do it. And so we did it. I didn't believe we could do it, but we did do it in the end. And so as a result, we ended up giving the business an environment, a lower environment called, actually end up with a lower production environment, but there's lower environments that they can actually start building their databases in January so they could then meet their April delivery date for their stuff. And this is what we ended up looking like. So in the middle, just for your eyes, it's a bit of an eye test, but this is the architecture. EDC is in the middle. The two things in the middle are from the same vendor, and the data flow is generally left to right, and all the kind of lines and the numbers are kind of the integrations that were put in place. And on the right-hand side is basically it will then spit out and go to the submission. It will get compiled together and pushed off to the FDA or whoever directs your thoughts. And we've got most of the elements there. There's some there's always unique stuff that can be added in, HOEA stuff and whatever, but those are kind of the main events. But you can see this is not. It was fairly complex to pull this together within the 6-month time frame. And so with that, I'm kind of just. I will be open to questions, but the takeaways are that, first of all, you can do it if you want to do it. But you've got to be kind of religious about how you want to do it. You've got to work with the vendor. You need to partner with the IT, and that would be my group in Abbvie, but in your own group. You need the governance, and that's you've got to have the governance within your company. You've got to be able to have governance with guts to be able to make decisions for you, communication, and then get the work streams to deliver on what they've got to do. With that, I will open up for questions, if there are any. Yeah?
Can you go into some of your decision-making process when you're going through RFP and looking at all the ED systems and why you ended up going with the one that you did?
Okay. So the RFP question is to set the RFP, how that works. The RFP process, we actually did a landscape analysis before we did the RFP process. So we had a pretty good idea. I think we had 8 companies we reached out to. And that was from startup, the incumbent, and it was that bookends. At the end of the day, why did we go to startup? Because we wanted to know who was coming through. And being Abbvie, though, I'm going to be blunt, we wanted an established company. That was probably we were probably putting a finger on the scale, if you want to say that. So we were leaning towards the more established companies, so it was presence, it was functionality, it was current and future. So what they have today, you go with, but also where is this company going? What do they want to do? And dare I say it, ultimately cost. because, you know, company our size, the number of studies we run, that is going to be a significant element. And with those things, I mean, we've been with this particular company for 15 years. I think what swung it were those two last things. The roadmap of where the incumbent was, there really wasn't. It's like, you're not going. And then the second part that pushed it over the edge was the cost. And we can get into what those were if you want, but that was those are the key deciders. But the interesting part was also the back end with the startups, because we now have a list of companies that we're keeping an eye on. Because EDC is a commodity, just by the way, that's the other thing we've realized. It's not, in the good old days, EDC was the database that everything went into. Now that's CDR. So. Thank you. Thanks.